Hello, good morning or good afternoon wherever you are. I hope you're doing really well. Welcome back to another vlog. Slightly different vlog to what I usually film. We're not going to be doing anything interiors or lifestyle today. I'm going to be talking personal finance with you guys, which is a side of me that I don't really talk about on the internet a lot. I've only really just opened up about it in the last kind of couple of weeks, because literally it's the start of the year, but it literally has been from like the beginning of this year that I've been kind of very open about my personal finance situation. I went into a bit of detail about it in my 2024 goals vlog, which I'll link down below if you're interested. But I thought this would be a good opportunity to sort of test the waters, talking personal finance, and sort of just kind of discuss a few things along that and then see where it lands with you guys. So I thought this video, I was about to say this week, this webisode, I thought it would be good to sort of go through my no spend January challenge. So kind of explain what that challenge was, just if you guys didn't see it over on my Instagram, what my results were, what were my learnings from it, and then kind of what my plan is moving forward for this month of February. And if you guys like it, you can let me know, and I may come out with a few more of these kind of personal finance videos and whatnot throughout the year. So I've got my laptop in front of me. I think let's just get started talking about finances, guys. Okay, guys, if you haven't got a hot drink or a beverage or a cocktail, mocktail, whatever you want, go grab one now, because usually when I say this is going to be a short video, it's never short. It's usually 30 minutes long. So I've got myself Stanley water, because if I have any more caffeine today, I'm going to be bouncing off the walls. I've also got some crisps as a little bit of snack. But go grab yourself some stuff, because we could be here for a while, or who knows, post-production, you know, editing, I might be like, what were you talking about? But I have a feeling we might be here for a bit. So go grab yourself a snack and then come back to it. So, no spend January. So I really wanted to kind of like jumpstart my wealthier, as I'm calling it. So I thought this would be a good challenge to do. So essentially, as I talked about in my 2024 goals vlog, and also on my blog, I went into a bit more detail about it, and sort of my wealth plan as well. All these things, by the way, will be linked down below and in various cards throughout this video. But essentially, what I talked about was 2024 being the year that I invest in wealth. And that's not to say have £1 million or anything like that. It is just to feel wealthy in my own way. So I talked about wanting smug funds, as I'm calling them, so sinking funds full of money for certain things in my life. I talked about jumpstarting an emergency fund, finally getting out of debt, all that stuff. I also talked about how my aim for 2024 is to finish the year with a net worth of 50k, and that was to be all these saving stuff and also pension stuff and everything like that. And I figured actually giving myself a bit of a reset, especially after January being such a heavy, December, sorry. December being a heavy month for spending with the festive holidays and whatnot. Also, my birthday was the month before. It just felt a lot, and I figured this would be a good month to kind of have a quiet period. Even though my husband's birthday was in January, it is relatively quiet. So I figured this would be a good one to sort of have a bit of a reset, have a few rules in place, just really kind of chill out with the spending and whatnot, and kind of just see what I could do in terms of saving my money and going on a no spending journey. So I'm just scrolling to find the reels. Here we go. So this reels is available on my Instagram. I already talk about the no spend January challenge on my blog, but essentially there were a couple of rules that I set myself, which were no new clothes, but I did caveat saying no new clothes, but if something, say, broke, like my only pair of knee-high brown boots or something like that, if they suddenly broke and I needed desperately to like replace them, then yes, I could go and buy them. But it wasn't a case of just buying clothes for the sake of buying clothes. No new home decor, which there was no reason to buy any. Like, usually I come up with an excuse to like replace something or something. There's none of that. It was just there will be no buying of new home decor. I did say no to new stationery, because I feel like all of us fall into that trap of like new year, new stationery and stuff, and I had plenty left over that I could go and grab. I said no new makeup or skincare, again the caveat being if I ran out of something that was part of my everyday stuff like my moisturizer or something like that, I could replace that. I said no to coffee / takeout lunches. I'd fallen into a really bad habit of not actually having anything for lunches for quite a few months, and just popping out, even when I was working from home, just popping out to go and get lunch for the sake of getting out and doing something. And the same with coffee, like I'd go and grab a coffee on the way to work, and it was just like, I really need to kind of stop this habit. So I said no to coffee and no to takeout lunches. I said 1 date night or 2 takeaways for the month, so there wasn't like completely stripping away all the joy, because as Tori Dunlap says from her first 100k, if you say no fried chicken on the diet, all you're going to want and crave is fried chicken. So I didn't want to necessarily say you can't do anything and have no joy in your life, and no, you can't spend any money on anything, but here are the caveats you can spend into it. So we really had this kind of choice, like we sort of said, oh, do we want a date night or do we want to take away? And in the end we were like, we're going on a date night. It's more important for us to get out and then just have a takeaway for the sake of having a takeaway, because we both can't be asked to cook or something like that. So that was a really good one to put in place. I obviously said needs will be paid for, because you can't forgo on stuff like rent and electricity and groceries and whatnot. And then I also put myself in the additional Happy New Year savings investment challenge. So this is a take on the Mariah Carey challenge that you can do at Christmas time, which I definitely will be doing this year. But essentially the challenge is every time you hear all I want for Christmas, you have to put a certain amount of money into savings or investments. So that could be £1, £5 or a tenner, 50 quid if you wanted to. I did the same thing, but I did it for the Happy New Year challenge. So the idea being that obviously the new year started on a Monday, and then what I said was the Monday after that, so I think that was like the 8th or something like that, anybody wishing me a Happy New Year for the rest of the kind of January period, if anyone did that, I would have to put some money into a savings account. Or my stocks and shares ISA and whatnot. So they were the challenges, which I felt really good about those. It wasn't necessarily restricting myself. It wasn't necessarily saying no to no spending whatsoever. I just was putting in some good parameters, good boundaries to say, this is where I actually value my money going this month over going here. So with that in mind, let's get into the results of the challenge. Okay, adjusting myself because my old lady back is going. So this is my budgeting spreadsheet. I have like a dashboard for every month. It's linked to sort of a spending tracker, and it creates this really nice kind of breakdown of like where my money goes, and gives me a nice little pie chart. I love a little chart where I can of like what I'm spending money on. So I break my spending into 3 places. I have expenses, I have savings, and I have spending. So the difference between spending and expenses is expenses are the stuff that you can't avoid. So that's your bills, your like rent, council tax, utilities, groceries. I also put credit cards in there. I've got Dash, travel, stuff like that. I can't avoid not spending those things, like I need those stuff. And then spending is sort of the discretionary stuff. So that is things like what I spend on the home, takeaways, dining out, entertainment. I put well-being, beauty, fashion. I also put subscriptions in here. So even though some subscriptions are like, well, they're not even necessities. Things like, you know, obviously Disney, Apple, Prime, Netflix, we are subscribed to all those channels, and in all fairness, we don't really watch any sort of traditional TV apart from the one that Traitors was on. We just really watch streaming platforms, my husband and I. So for us, they're kind of a necessity, but you know what, if you know something hit the fan and we had to cut expenses, they would be probably some of the first things to go. So that's why I put them under spending, because they're not really a necessity. They are a good thing to have, but if we had to reassess, you know, we have somewhere where we could cut back. And I actually have, since like December to January, I've really looked at all those subscriptions and gone, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this. So really have cut back on those things as such. So with this in mind, I had everything broken down, so I'm going to kind of go off on the percentages and I'll reveal a few numbers to you guys. I'll give you some kind of tidbits on numbers and stuff like that. So my expenses for the month of January came to 62.7% of mine and my husband's income. Now that could be seen as quite high to some people, because I know the rule is generally between sort of like 50, 30, 20 in these kind of splittings. So that being 50% of expenses, 30% spending and 20% saving, or vice versa and stuff like that. I don't really think like that rule really applies to everybody. It's a good guideline to give you, but if you live in an expensive city to just survive in, your expenses are probably going to be higher than, you know, they're probably going to be more than 50% of your income and whatnot. Also, if you've hit your savings goals, you may not want to put completely 20 or 30% of your income away. You may be happy with just putting 10% of it away. So, and that's the thing about finances, they're personal. So it really kind of just depends on where you are. My overall goal, because I don't look at this as very linear month to month. It's nice to see that, but I do have sort of the summary for the month, which has everything on there, like for the whole year and stuff. I would rather look at the combined at the end of the year, because, you know, some months are going to be more expensive, some months are going to be cheaper and whatnot. So for me, a goal between 60 to 70% expenses, and savings being between 20 to 30, and then spending to be again that kind of split. It would be happy for me. I know the maths didn't add up to 100% there, that it was the only GCSE that I only got a B in, so forgive me, maths ain't my strong point. But I think that would be a good split for me. And like I said, some months it's going to be higher, some months it's going to be lower. So it really just depends on like what is happening for that month and whatnot. But 62%, let's say 63%, I think that's a fairly decent amount to kind of spend. Now that number is higher this month for January because I actually threw more money at paying off my husband's credit card, which I'll go into more detail at the end of this, but that we had money left over. So long story short, no spend January worked for us, but because we had money left over, I thought, right, so putting that into savings, I feel like it would be more vital to put the money to this space. So happy with those choices and whatnot. Savings wise, we ended the month with 30.4% of our income going into savings, and I can reveal that that total amount that we did save was £1,181.19, which is a lot of money to put away. And I mean, I have to give ourselves a pat on the back for really being diligent with that. And that money really went into investments. So I had a couple of people wish me Happy New Year after the deadline. So I stuck that money into our stocks and shares ISA. Portion of that went to our emergency fund. Dash savings, car savings took the majority chunk of the money, and that is only because my MOT is due next month in March. Pray for Margot. And then right after that, it's my insurance is due. So it's one of those where it's like, okay, we need to throw a lot more money at that. My goal is that because I always do this ever since I've had Margot, it's like a race to the finish line to get the money available, and that's probably why I feel so poor at the beginning months of the year, is because it's just like chuck everything there, because I don't know how much, like, is Margot going to fail her MOT or not, or is she going to pass this time? I don't think she's going to do it this time, I'm not gonna lie. So my aim is that I feel like the car savings will become a regular savings of like £100 a month or something like that, so that it always keeps ticking over. I'd rather have more money in that pot than less, and it's just in case, because, you know, like, and a good example of this is that like Christmas time, I had to buy new tyres for her, 2 new tyres, because the other ones were smooth and about to become illegal, and then I had one tyre have a puncture in it, and that was an emergency call out, and then that felt like a lot of money that came out of my bank that didn't need to, whereas if it was all in kind of car savings, I could have had a little bit more of a relief that it was already in there. And that's why I call them smug funds, because it's like the smug feeling that you've already got the money available. And then the one that doesn't really add up to the net worth but was worth putting money towards was the Taylor Swift Eras tour. So that is just saving money now for accommodation, travel, dashes, pet sitter coming, etc, etc. So just wanted to have that money available to one side, ready and raring to go. So I'm sure if you guys can kind of do the math, you've maybe worked out how much I actually spent in January. The total amount is 6.9%, and I'm quite happy with that being under 10%. I never really set myself a goal of like, I wanted to spend that much money, but being under 10% of my income on actual like discretionary spending is quite a nice achievement. And that left us with some money left over in like our overall account that I didn't actually allocate to any sort of thing. Normally I like to kind of go to zero in the sense of any money left over before payday, I'll stick into savings or something like that, but I actually rolled that money over into this month, just, you know, as a little bit of a reward and whatnot. And really the spending, obviously there was the sort of fixed spending of the subscriptions, which are the same amount each kind of month and stuff. The majority of the money went to two places, which was, three places. One of them was obviously dining out, which I'd already factored in. That was for my husband's birthday. We just kind of went to a nice fancy restaurant and treated ourselves. There was also well-being, which was my kind of like gym app one that, you know, because I was a typical girl and signed up for a gym app to work out more in January. Cliche. But also I use some of that money to go towards a Pilates class that I go to every Wednesday in my village, and I love it, and it's just kind of a nice little bit of like spending to have on just feeling good, and it gets me out while I'm working from home and stuff, so I was happy to kind of put money there. And then the main money went towards garden stuff, because in case you guys, well, you won't know, but you will see in next week's episode, I'm starting to start my seedlings for my courtyard garden. So I did my January seedlings, and I had to buy a few things for that and stuff. But it was nice to feel like I had the money available and I wasn't fighting with other urges to like sort that stuff out. And I'm happy to say I didn't spend any money on beauty or fashion. We were pretty good. I mean, I was scraping the barrel with my moisturiser. I probably could have got myself a moisturiser, but I was like, nope, we'll wait until February before we buy it. And obviously this as well, like I cut my hair literally today as I'm filming this. I could have like booked the appointment, but I was like, nope, we are going to wait until February to do this. So yeah, it was quite nice. And like I said, it's nice to feel like the discretionary was under 10%, and I'm wondering like how close I can get it like that again. So who knows? But yeah, I have to say overall, no spend January challenge, fully done, ticked off, and really, really happy with that. So with that in mind, what are the learnings that I had from the no spend January challenge? The learnings I really had were, it was interesting, like if I had any sort of urge to spend and stuff, and actually where those urges were and what. And surprisingly, the fact that I said no takeaway coffee for the entire month, I didn't really feel the urge for it. I will admit I had 1 or 2 takeaway coffees that my husband treated to me on his money. So to me that didn't count because it was like hashtag gifted. But realistically, like I got into such a good routine, like when I was driving to work, that I would make my own coffee before I left the house. And my husband got me a Ralph Lauren takeaway coffee mug for my birthday, and I've used that every single day that I've left the house. And it became part of my ritual in the morning to get up and make that stuff, so it was quite nice. And yeah, I really didn't like, even like kind of like the 1st of February, it wasn't like I was running out the door to buy a takeaway coffee. It was really, really interesting. And what was surprising was I went to a chain like to grab a coffee, and it was quite disappointing, and I felt really disappointed that like I spent my money there. So I think one of the things moving forward is that I do not need to get myself a little treat every time I leave the house, even though I'm definitely going to do that reels on that trend, because like that really is kind of my thinking sometimes. But I think as well, like I think I'm just gonna stick, like, as sad as it sounds, like I'm valuing where I'm putting my money when it comes to coffee. So I'm really sticking to the independents, local places, because like they do know how to make coffee, and I really don't want to spend that much money on a coffee and feel disappointed by the quality of it and whatnot. What was really interesting though was I went into M&S to go and get some food stuff for our weekly food shop, and because it's got a fashion haul attached to it, obviously I had to go and have a look. And there was some chocolate brown like workout leggings that I've been kind of thinking that I wanted to add to my wardrobe, and I had this real urge to get them. I was like, I must have them, I must have them, but obviously couldn't because it was no spend January and there was no kind of discretion in there. But it was interesting that that was the pull rather than anything else, like even like, oh, I want to get this new skincare thing, or I want to buy this mask, or like I really didn't feel any of those urges. And that was the interesting thing, that was the one thing I was pulled to. And by the way, I did buy them in February. and yeah, didn't like them, so they're getting returned. In fact, they have been returned. But it was really interesting where that kind of stuff was. And it was also interesting kind of really getting nitty-gritty with like, okay, we had this additional money left over, where do I want that money to go? And like I said, putting it towards like the credit card felt like a really good decision, because I had already had put so much money into savings that month. I was like, I don't feel like I need to put any more money in there. My overall learning is that I think it's actually really good to do these kind of challenges maybe more than once a year. Obviously it's not something I can do like every other month or every month. I mean, if you can do that, good for you, but I think life would get a little bit boring if you did that every time. So I'm definitely going to set myself the challenge again of a no spend month. I think at least once. I'm thinking May might be a good month to do it, just because, as I said, we've obviously got like my insurance coming up, my MOT coming up, a couple of really busy months in terms of like things happening and whatnot. But May, obviously I'm going to see Taylor in June, feels like a good month of just resetting before it all ramps up again in the summer. So I think that's when I'm going to do another no spend challenge, and you'll have to let me know in the comments below kind of like how you want me to document this. Like, do you want me to do like a vlog on here, or maybe more like weekly mini vlog reels over on Instagram and TikTok? Let me know what you'd be interested in, because I'll be happy to kind of do that. And I think I want to try one more kind of in the latter half of the year. It feels good to do it in May, even though it's not halfway point of the year, it's just before the halfway point. I feel like it's good to do it at that point, and I feel like I would love to fit one in sort of maybe September, or I'm going to say August actually, just because obviously September is kind of when I ramp up doing all sort of the seasonal stuff that I love to do in terms of content creation. You know, it might be nice to do a bit of a reset right before that point. So at the moment we haven't got anything planned for August, so I think that would be a good time to do that sort of reset then. That one pin in it, but definitely, sorry, I forgot the month then. Definitely May, I think, is when we're gonna do another reset no spend challenge as such. So the final thing is kind of like, how am I looking at my finances in the month of February? So I've got two kind of things happening in the month of February that are sort of on my mind in terms of how I do stuff. So this is going to very much sound like a humble brag, but please do note that when I say this, I am fully aware of the privilege that I have, that these are happening to me, and also just I am very grateful that I'm getting these opportunities and whatnot. So I found out in December that because I'm in a new job, I didn't actually think I would qualify, because I only started in July, but in September I found out, in December I found out I qualify for a pay rise, which kicks in this month. So it's a 4% rise on my annual salary, which is a lovely, lovely gift to get. So with that, I was kind of thinking about how I wanted to kind of move forward with this, because again, incredibly privileged, my husband and I, in the sense of we don't necessarily need the additional money. I'm not saying no to it at all, but kind of on a day-to-day living kind of thing, it's like we've got everything in place, we're all ready and good to go. So with that, what I've decided to do is not change stuff on my budgeting spreadsheet. By that I mean I'm gonna live at my current salary before the pay rise kicks in. I think this is a really good thing to kind of do as just a subtle way of saving money. So I'm just going to continue as if nothing has happened for 1 year. I'm just going to act like we're on the same salary. And then the difference between what would be my salary and what I'm wanting to live on, I'm just going to stick straight as like an automatic amount that goes into my emergency fund. So that should hopefully help with sort of just automatic savings without me thinking about it, but also lifestyle inflation, because obviously the trap that people can get in is that they get more money, everything elevates in their life, they're not prepared for it, particularly as well when it comes to things like emergency funds, because obviously you're saving for the sort of beans on toast amount that you're currently on, but then if your pay goes up you have to factor that in when it comes to your calculation and whatnot. So I'm going to do it for 1 year, and then next February, should we be so lucky and get another pay rise, I will then move myself up into that bracket, and then that way I'm just subconsciously always saving money, and having it put to one side, available should we need it and stuff like that. The other thing that I'm doing is I've got this cheeky dreams, what I call dream savings tracker here. I'm not showing you anything really, but just like a blank spread, not blank spreadsheet, but you know what I mean. The brightness is on my laptop. But my dream saving tracker is pretty much a duplicate of what my other saving tracker is. But what I've added is the monthly column, so I can kind of play around with, like, I know the kind of amount that we can save each month, where I want to do it, and what happens if I say increase that kind of smug fund, or do that here, or do that there. And one of the things is, right at the bottom is mine and my husband's credit cards. So we should be debt free this year. Well, we will be debt free, there'll be no ifs or buts about it. These are the final bits of debt that we just have to pay off. Now, I did do one thing which I don't necessarily recommend that everyone does, and I have a feeling if any financial people are watching this, they might be like, no, but it was the right decision for us to do this. So I have mentioned that I do have a stocks and shares ISA. For anyone not in the UK, an ISA is a tax-free saving account. I think the total amount, I think it goes up in April, but the current total amount between April and March is 20 grand. Essentially it's tax-free, so you put the money in, you don't incur any tax on it. But the stocks and shares ISA is obviously one that invests in the stock market, and the interest on it is tax-free also. So I had a little chunk of money, not a big amount, but a small little amount of money in there, doing its sort of thing. But what I was able to work out when it came to the credit cards was, if we use that money towards Lee's credit card, because Lee's credit card is the primary one at the moment because it's got the high interest rate. Even though mine has the higher balance, his has the higher interest rate, so we decided to snowball on that one and get that one off. What I figured out was if I took that money from the ISA and put it towards my husband's credit card, plus a small payment that was already budgeted in for February, his card is gone by the end of this month. Now previously that would have taken that card, like if we hadn't done that, we were on schedule to paying that card off in May time, end of May month. But what that means is by moving that money on there, sticking a huge chunk amount on it, and this extra money and paying it off, we're then able to move what we had budgeted as a larger amount towards his credit card to my credit card, and my credit card repayments have gone from finishing at the end of November, so the end of the year, to now finishing the end of July. So going into the summer month, being debt free and stuff. As I said, I feel like some people will be like, no, why did you do that? You should have kept it there. Oh, my battery's flashing. Let me come right back to you with my reasoning why in just a sec. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I definitely thought I had like a charged battery there. As I was saying, I know some people, particularly finance people, will be like, no, you should have kept the money in there, because obviously the thing with investing in the stock and bonds and whatnot is time is the greatest factor on your hand. It doesn't really matter about the amount, it's more the time that you give it, because obviously the longer it has to build compound interest, the greater the returns and whatnot. But it made financial sense for us at that time, and that's the beauty, as I've said, about personal finance. It's personal to everyone. So while it may not make financial sense for somebody else, it was a no-brainer for us in terms of least amount of interest, because obviously credit cards higher interest than what you would get as an average return on the stock market, which obviously is valued at about 3% on average. So it made sense for us to do it that way, but it also means, because we've managed to do that, it helps reduce ours. It means some like summertime, like turbocharging all that money that we would put to our credit cards goes to other places. It's maybe work out how much we can put away towards a house deposit, which I'm not going to say yet on camera, because buying a first time home I know is a very, very kind of touchy is not the right word, but it's very delicate at the moment, because it's just rubbish at the moment, the housing market, and I can't again hide from the fact of the privilege that I have, that I'm in a position that I am able to potentially save this amount of money towards buying a house. Obviously, when we do come to that process, I will be documenting it and going into some detail about it, because I don't think many people talk about it in terms of, if you don't have the help in terms of an inheritance or the privilege to be able to live rent free with parents and stuff like that, saving for a house is the hardest thing in the world. So I do want to be honest about that in the moment, but we'll just keep quiet for the moment in the amount, because again, don't want to jinx anything. I'm very superstitious in that way. I don't want to jinx anything. But yeah, by doing this, we've really turbocharged it kind of the last couple of months of 2024 in that sense. And that's probably why I'm also looking at doing that sort of like August challenge of like maybe no spend month, because then really there's going to just ramp up the amount of money we can put into savings and whatnot. But speaking of savings and kind of going back to the two things that are happening this month, the second thing related to the pay rise as such is that I found out that I also qualify for a bonus this year with my work. I've never had a bonus. Ever. This is the only job I've ever had that has given me a bonus, and apparently it's a very regular thing, so it's like an incredible privilege that this company is actually doing this for us. I found out the other day the amount that I'm expected to get. Now this is before tax, sadly, but not sadly because we do believe in paying our taxes here. You know, taxes help our country, but sometimes I wish they were a little bit smaller, especially on things like bonuses. That's a well done. Why do I need to pay tax on that? But again, we like taxes. We pay taxes here. We do not skirt them. But yeah, it is quite a bit of a large amount, for me at least, for a bonus. I thought a bonus would be a couple of hundred. It's not that. But it's not banker bonus before anyone runs amok in the comments on rumours and stuff like that. But it is a large amount. Now, I kind of had in my head that I definitely was going to use part of this money to treat myself. I'm thinking of finally getting the Dyson Airwrap. Basic as every other girly out there, got my Stanley Cup to one side, and I want to get the Dyson Airwrap. But truly, I've been thinking about the Dyson Airwrap for a while. I feel like I said that wrong. But it's one of those where it's like, okay, we'd have to save up for it, and there's been so many other stuff that I would rather save up for than this. But I'm going to treat myself and give myself a pat on the back for a hard day's work by getting that. But it does leave a bit of a large amount left over for other stuff, and I'm slightly confused by what I should do with it. Now, my brain's kind of said, obviously the obvious thing would be to stick it towards my credit card to help reduce the amount and stuff, but it only reduces it by 1 month, which to me feels like a bit of a waste with what we could do with that money. Like, the amount could easily fill 1 or 2 of my short-term saving goals, or I could put it into my LISA, which is my lifetime ISA, which is where we currently have our house deposit, and put it into there and get the government bonus on it. So those who don't know about the lifetime ISA, anyone under the age of 40 can get it. It's mostly used for first time home, but it can be used towards pension. The max you can put in is £4,000 of your kind of ISA allowance. So it's not on top of that, it is part of the 20,000 of the ISA allowance, but this account you can only put up into £4,000 a year, and with that you get the 25% bonus. So the idea being, if you put in £4,000, you get £1,000 bonus from the government for saving the money. So part of me is like, okay, I could put the money in there and then get that bonus for this year, but then is it going to be a lot, you know, compared to like, should I just stick it into another account, should I just put it towards emergency savings? I honestly don't know. I'm almost DM Tori Dunlap and was like, please listen to my plea and answer this question when the money comes in, because I honestly don't know what is the right or wrong answer. I'd love to get your thoughts and perspectives on it as to what you think I should do with it, because truly I'm not quite sure. Like, some people will think actually putting it into stocks would be a great idea, some people may think putting it towards the pension, but I'm pretty okay there. I honestly don't know. So I think for the moment I'm going to sit on the money until I make a decision. Maybe I'll put it towards paying off the credit card towards the more end of the balance of it. Maybe that would be more appropriate. Again, I don't know. So I'm just going to sit on it in a high interest account, let it do its thing, and then make a decision about it later. But But that's kind of really what we're aiming for in February as such. I suddenly feel very poor. For some reason February's felt like a very expensive month already, and it hasn't really begun and stuff like that. But I'm kind of keeping to some of the no spend January rules and such, of like, I'm not really needing any new clothes, I'm not really needing like any stationery. I mean, I barely need anything new in terms of like makeup and stuff, but I did obviously get myself a haircut and, you know, got myself some fancy shampoos and stuff like that. But realistically, there's nothing at the moment that I'm desperate for apart from gardening stuff. Maybe that needs to be put on the no spend challenge for next time. But yeah, like, again, it's one of those where it's kind of a quiet month, but there's not really a need to buy big things. Really, it's just kind of excursion stuff, like going out to see friends at brunch, etc, etc, that is where the money is going this month for. So I'm kind of excited to see where we are in February. Obviously I will be very much celebrating when we have one debt gone and then we can focus on the other. And yeah, I'm just kind of excited for the next kind of like bit in my kind of wealth era. I can happily say as well at the moment, and I did talk about this in my kind of a little bit in my January 2020 like New Year goal situation, my wealth goal remaining amount to save up is or what I have saved up currently is 52% of the 50k goal. And I did speak about this kind of very briefly in terms of like I'm not sure I will hit 50k by the end of 2024, and looking at my dream saving tracker, I think I'll get about 70 to 80% of the way there. It just depends on interest and stuff like that. Even then I'm sat there thinking, God, that will be an amazing achievement to do, even if it's only that. Like, it's still a large amount and whatnot, but you know, we shall see. But yeah, that is me for the month of February. I'm very excited with where everything is going. I'm very happy to kind of keep doing all this saving stuff, and I'm just really happy with the new mindset that I have and where I'm going with everything. So I'm gonna stop rambling here. I feel like I've gone on long enough, and as I said, short video, my arse. But I do hope you enjoyed me kind of just chatting personal finances to you guys. I honestly have felt exuberated and like invigorated. There we go, invigorated. I just personally love talking about personal finance, especially with other women. My channel is majority female viewership. Not that we don't like men being here, we obviously welcome you guys, but it's so important for women to talk about finances between each other, because money equals power and a say in the world. We know that, there's no denying it. We live in a capitalist world. Money is power. Money gives you a say in the way of things. The more money women have, the more power they have, the more they have in say in their society. So I am happy to talk, come rain or shine, when it comes to personal finance with every person I meet. I mean, literally some of the girls, the younger girls in the office, have heard my spiel about pensions and stuff like that so many times, but I will continue to be on them and be telling them to put money away now, and you know, interest compounding, and they need to start now where they're in the 20s and whatnot. And if you guys ever want to talk to me personally, I don't think I've done this disclaimer, but I feel like it's obvious. I am not a personal finance expert. I don't have any qualifications in it. I'm just a passionate human being. I would highly recommend you go and speak to other people in regards to this. So I've linked to a couple of financial books in the past. I will link them into this description box down below. But I have already mentioned like Tori Dunlop of her 100k, Vivian 2, Rich BFF, are podcasts and websites that I listen and visit often. I would recommend them a lot. But if you ever just want a personal chat with somebody in regards to finances, hit me up. I'm more than happy to speak on, like, to people one-on-one, and I will get more confident with sort of putting full numbers out there. I hope you guys kind of appreciated, you know, some real numbers in terms of the savings. I will get more honest with them, like, as time goes on. It's just about being confident to do so. So give me that encouragement if this is stuff you want to listen to and hear about and stuff, and I will continue to put my big girl pants on and talk about it more. But I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I do hope you enjoyed this kind of side of me and want to see more of it. As I've already mentioned, let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or just want to say yes, please continue with these things. Like, rate and subscribe and all that if you are interested. As I mentioned, we've got a very wholesome webisode coming up, and I will say, on a bit of housekeeping there, you're about to see my hair suddenly grow next week. It is just the way of filming. It goes from here and it will go back up to here later. But yeah, you've got some of that to look forward to. We've got a couple of crafty videos coming up. A mini room makeover in this room in particular is coming up, as well as a bit of a crafty thing ready for June, hint hint. I'm going to be working on and do a bit of a tutorial on. So if you want to see all those things, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. On that note, have a lovely rest of your day, have a lovely rest of your week. I will see you guys next week. Just have an awesome time and be safe, be happy, all that stuff. I will see you guys very, very soon. Bye.